In the 1780s and 1790s, British explorers that had taken control of Australia heard of a strange animal that swam in the waterways of eastern Australia. When they first got a look at it, they couldn't make out what it was. It looked sort of like a beaver, or maybe an otter, but it had a duck-like bill, and it swam by paddling with its front feet, rather than using its back feet or its tail, like most swimmers do. They were completely mystified, although their Aboriginal guides knew all about this animal and knew about its habits. They did not imagine it, but this animal was even stranger than it looked. It could swim in almost any body of fresh water, hunting crayfish and worms and other aquatic creatures using its soft, leathery bill. It has electroreception in its bill that enables it to find prey in the water when it's dark and murky. Nonetheless, to these early British explorers, it was a mystery what kind of animal this was. A cross between an otter, a beaver, with a duck's-like bill? When specimens were first brought to London in 1798 and named and identified by scientists, many thought it was a hoax, possibly an otter or a beaver pelt with a duck's bill sewn on the front end. Such hoaxes were not unusual in those days, with various unscrupulous taxidermists putting together a variety of animals to make a chimera that would sell on the market. In 1799, it was officially given a scientific name and identified for the first time. This is the very first specimen of platypus ever found in Western science, still in the Naturalist Museum in London, where I got to see it in 2023. Eventually, more and more specimens like this one reached Western scientists, so they were convinced that it was a real animal and not some kind of fake that had been put together by unscrupulous taxidermists. But then the question arose, they would hear stories about how this animal laid eggs, which was even more startling because it was clearly a mammal with fur and warm blood. During the early 1800s, the race was on by a variety of British scientists living in Australia to have their Aboriginal hunters find specimens which actually had eggs inside them, or eggs being ready to be laid. When they finally proved that these animals did indeed lay eggs rather than give birth to live young, they telegraphed the news back to London. The platypus has more reptilian features than you might imagine. The males have a giant poison spur on their back leg, which they use to fight off predators and each other. And in their skeleton is a strange mix of reptilian features and mammalian features, including a very strange shaped skull to support their flexible beak, which they use for electroreception to detect prey in the water and find it even in murky water that is too dark to see. But the platypus was not the only strange animal in Australia that laid eggs. British explorers learned from their Aboriginal guides about a strange animal that had spines all over its body to protect itself, and a long, toothless snout with a beak that is used to eat ants and termites. They also had powerful front limbs with digging claws that allows them to rip open an ant nest or termite nest and grab prey, which are ants or termites that are lapped up by their long, sticky tongue. This animal looks sort of like an anteater, but it's not related whatsoever. It's a monotreme that lays eggs just like the platypus. And unlike the marsupials, which carry their young in pouches. Instead, the platypus and echidna have a fold on the base of the female's body, where the sticky egg is held in place until it's ready to hatch. Then they're placed inside of a safe nest and raised separate from the mother. So the waterways of Australia are full of these strange animals that science had not completely understood until quite recently, and the story behind their origin is even stranger. The echidnas, for example, are a classic example of evolutionary convergence, where an animal that eats ants or termites has developed a long, toothless snout with a sticky tongue down the tubular snout that is used to lap up termites and ants with the stickiness of its tongue. This occurs in true anteaters, in pangolins, and in several other groups, and is part of an example of convergent evolution to a common body form. But echidnas are very different from other ant-eating mammals, and much like hedgehogs, in that they have developed very sharp spines out of some of the guard hairs on their body. These are used for defense. When an echidna is roaming out in the open, unprotected in the burrow, it often finds itself with a predator about to attack it. As soon as it feels threatened, the echidna will quickly dig downward and curl up so that its spines all flare outward. It just continues to dig and dig and dig until the soft underbelly is completely protected in the ground, and only their spiny backs stick out of the hole that they have dug very quickly to protect themselves. Like the platypus, echidnas have a very strange skeleton with several reptilian bones left in their shoulder girdle and in their hips that are not found in any other kinds of more advanced mammals. So what are these strange animals related to? Normally, paleontologists focus on the teeth because the teeth are the most durable tissue in the animal skeleton, and they can often tell us about who is related to whom. But echidnas have no teeth at all, and adult platypuses don't either. Yet the baby platypus, known as the puggles, have very strange looking teeth that don't resemble any other group of mammals alive today. These teeth are shed as they reach adulthood, leaving only the empty sockets where the teeth once stood. Instead of teeth, they have a series of rugose ridges on their palates, which they use to capture and grind down their prey. Their teeth then have been studied very intensively, but the answers have been difficult to obtain because there are so few specimens known which have teeth attached. As you can see, the adult jaw has no teeth left in it at all. Then, in 1995, some opal miners from a locality called Lightning Ridge found a fossilized jaw that was preserved in opal, that it was indeed a good match for the teeth of the living baby platypus. This animal came to be known as Steropodon, and it's about 90 million years old, partway through the late Cretaceous. Others have been found at Lightning Ridge as well. This is Chalicodon, another one known from a jaw that is preserved in fossilized opal. All we have are the jaws and teeth, so the reconstructed looks something like a modern platypus, but not nearly so flat-beaked. Steropodon, Chalicodon, Opelia, and others are known from Lightning Ridge and give us a Cretaceous window into monotremes evolution. The next good site for finding platypus is a famous locality about 15 million years old in Queensland known as Riversley. In the pockets in these limestones in Riversley have occurred lots and lots of bones of a variety of Miocene mammals, including platypus. The first of these Miocene platypuses to be described is the genus known as Obdurodon, which means durable tooth, described by Woodburn, my former undergrad advisor, and Dick Tedford, one of my mentors, in 1975. Obdurodon is known from fairly good skulls that resemble the modern platypus, only they're significantly larger. Then, in 2013, they discovered an enormous Obdurodon tooth that told us that there was a platypus almost 3 feet long, a super predator as platypuses go. So what are monotremes related to? Their fossil record is now getting better and better, and along with a variety of mammals in the Mesozoic, it's clear that they are a member of a very primitive group, the oldest mammal group to ever evolve that's still alive today. All of their extinct relatives among Mesozoic mammals lived mostly in the Jurassic and early Cretaceous, about the same time that we find the Lightning Ridge specimens. But all the rest of those groups are now extinct, while the platypus and echidna are still alive today. This also suggests that most of these Mesozoic mammal groups that are more primitive than modern marsupials and placental mammals probably also laid eggs, because the only living members of those groups, the platypus and the echidna, still lay eggs. And then, in 1992, Argentinian paleontologists found and described a fossil relative of the platypus called Monotrematum. The teeth of Monotrematum are a great match for the various types of Cretaceous monotremes you find in Australia, like Chalicodon and Obdurodon and Steropodon, and even the baby platypus teeth that we have today. This proves now that monotremes are not restricted to Australia through their whole history, but lived in both Argentina and in Australia during the Cretaceous and early Paleocene, and were spread across Gondwana, only dying out later in South America. So from specimens that zoologists first thought were a hoax, to now an extensive fossil record not only in Australia, but also in South America, it turns out that monotremes have a long evolutionary history, going back at least 120 million years. Today, however, the platypus is severely threatened, not only from the destruction of their habitat and hunting where it's not supposed to be happening, but also from the recent and extensive wildfires in Australia which have damaged aquatic habitats where they live. These strange egg-laying mammals are relics of the real Jurassic Park and lived with the age of dinosaurs for most of their history, and yet today they are on the brink of extinction.